your first appearance in WWF was March of '96. You come out, you press slam Jerry Lawler. How did that come about that you first got that opportunity?
Well, I was a fan, like a well-documented fan of wrestling. I was no different than any of y'all in here. It's just that I just happened to be the strongest guy in the world. And I did a lot of, like, celebrity events. You know, like I did the Foot Locker Celebrity Slam Dunk Contest. And, yeah, it's okay to clap. I was pretty live.
He was legitimately the world's strongest man, ladies and gentlemen. Give him an applause.
And I did a lot of sporting events. So like the NFL had this thing called the NFL Strongest Man. So I hosted that one year, and the whole time I was like acting like I was Hulk Hogan. I was posing and stuff and shaking the wall like Ultimate Warrior and just showing that I was a big fan of wrestling. And it got noticed by the WWF brass, and they was like, hey, man, this dude, like, he's made for wrestling. He's a show-off. Anybody that goes online and looks up the Olympic trials, I lifted and stood on one leg. And, I mean, I'm just a ham. Like, I can't help it. I put the mustard on a hot dog. So it's like to be able to be that guy and have pro wrestling, the world of pro wrestling, come looking for you rather than you go and look for them was a big deal.
And was part of them coming to you hanging up on Vince McMahon when he called you?
Yeah, because I watch wrestling every week with like these 5 guys that were Olympic athletes at the Olympic training facility in Colorado Springs. And Wes Barnett was very good with voices. So I thought it was Wes. So Vince calls, and I'm like, all right, Wes, and hung up on him. So when I go to the athlete room, Wes is in there. And I'm like, you know, these are dorm phones. You know, like back then, there were no mobile phones. So, like, it's on the wall. And I'm like, hi. And then the phone rings again. Mark, the phone. So I run back down, and it's my coach. And he's like, hey, did you hang up on Vince McMahon? I said, that was Vince for real? And he was like, yes. Like, take his damn call. So I go back down and I say, hey, man, I'm sorry. I thought it was one of my friends joking around. And he said, that's not the first time that people didn't believe it was me. So it was like we got off to a good start.
And you do the Summer Olympics, and then they sign you to this massive 10-year deal. Did they have to court you a lot, or were you in straight away when they walked?
Oh, man, they could have gave me $5 in a hot dog and I would have went. Like, I love wrestling. Like, I mean, I watch 15 hours of wrestling a week so I could report on it on Busted Open. And every show that the fans watch around the world, if I don't watch the entire show, I'll watch the snippets of the shows, or I'll watch the matches that happen. I get the results, and I have like 2 or 3 friends that are like super fans like me, and I'll call them and say, hey, did you watch so-and-so? I didn't get to see it. What happened? And it's like I've turned into the little kid that my mom used to pay me $2 a day during the summer to watch the soap operas, and when she got off work, to tell her what happened on The Young and the Restless. So, like, that's what I do a lot of times. When I can't watch it myself, I call people and go, hey, give me the play-by-play. I put my phone down, and I'll just sit there and listen. So, like, it's wrestling it became everything I ever had.
I was going to ask you because Mark Merrow in '96, he signed the guaranteed contract, and a lot of the wrestlers were like annoyed that he had guaranteed money. When you got that 10-year deal, were any of the locker room annoyed at you for having the 10-year?
It was a lot of people that was pissed. Like, I mean, to have the first guaranteed money contract in pro wrestling, like, I put that right up there with winning a championship because it wasn't about just the athletics of it or the entertainment of it or the business of it. It was the fact that they knew without it, I was not going to do it. And at that time, like I was at the Dallas Cowboys football camp. I was an outstanding football player. And not just average. I've got 4 family members that have won Super Bowls. Like I come from a genetic line of like really impressive athletes. We have 2 Olympians in my family. I'm not the only one. So it's like the competition for the kids are real high. My children, they know that their cousins are good at stuff, and they know that in order for me to spend more attention on them than going to see one of their cousins play, they asses in the gym. They work hard. My son won state. He came in 12th at the Nationals in wrestling. He wrestled this year as a freshman in college and was 2-2, and lost to 2 guys that were ranked in the top 10. It wasn't like he just lost to some soda cans. And now he wanted to play football again, and he went and walked on to the football team. He went and told the coach, "You give me the best guys that you have. I want to go against them to prove to you that I deserve to be on your team." Coach was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool, man. I like that, but we're not going to do that. How about you come, work out with us, and let's see what you got, and we'll do it." But he challenged them, and that's what I did my whole life. Is I've taught my kids to challenge the rules. Don't be an anarchist. I don't want you to tear it down. I want you to challenge it. You know, like if you're fearful of what people are going to say, Vince McMahon, I've had it with him before. There was a time when Vince said something to me, and I said, "I think that's stupid." And he was like, "What? You not afraid of me?" I said, "You can't whoop me. You ain't got enough money to talk that shit and walk over here." Like, so that's who I am. You know, I mean, we used to have final exam time. You know, like I call it the final exam time, but I was in Louisville training with all of the guys coming up in pro wrestling. And when I say the best of the best of the best, that's who was there. Don Fry was an outstanding MMA fighter. Ron Waterman, they used to call him the H2O man, was there. Dan Severn was there. Brock Lesnar and Shelton Benjamin came. Batista and Randy Orton. People don't realize Randy Orton and Dolph Ziggler both were really good wrestlers in high school. Dolph won state, came in second at the NAIA championships at Kent State in wrestling. And I used to challenge him. I said, "Hey, man, that karate shit don't work on me." I said, "I want to try it. Come on in the ring. Let's go." And I challenged every last one of them. And I won some, but I lost some, but I won a lot.
And when when you signed with WWE, was a big part of it you saying this needs to be a long deal? This needs to be, because you got a 10-year deal, right?
Yeah.
Was that important?
Vince said that it's going to take you 3 or 4 years to learn, and we're going to be paying you to really learn. And then that next 6 years or 5 years, he's like, "Man, we know where you're going to be at the top of the card, because it's an investment in who you're going to be." And I almost failed. I had to grow up because, like I said, I challenged the systems. So you can't just tell me anything. And during that time, wrestling was in a place where the people were jealous of me for getting the deal, first off, so they hazed me. There were guys that were supposed to teach me, wouldn't teach me. You know, that kind of thing was going on. So when I started to feel that, I started to be like, "Well, screw you." And I would beat people up. And, you know, anytime people try to play jokes, ha, 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 it ended up in people pulling me off of them because I was choking people. And, like, it's not that's not the way that you do it in wrestling. And I grew like anybody that has a brain would. You learn to understand that people are trying to push your buttons and you have to ignore them, or you have to turn everybody else against them. So that became my thing. I wanted to embarrass people and turn everybody against anybody that messed with me. And I started creating allies and befriending people. And the best advice I ever got was from the late Jimmy Miranda. Y'all remember Jimmy Miranda? Jimmy Miranda was the guy that used to take care of all the wrestlers, make sure the logistics of the flights was correct, find hotels for people. He did all the behind the scenes stuff for WWF. And Jimmy, like, when I came, I was the first one that came in. Then The Rock came in, and he moved in with me because he didn't have but like $7, $8 or whatever. And Jimmy would like take care of us, like let us know what to do, where we had to be, who we had to talk to. Oh, that's so and so. You have to talk to him. Like, so Jimmy was like, Mark, he was like, you don't even know everybody. Like, like go to the production office because that's kind of the brain center of pro wrestling. Go in there and introduce yourself to everybody and find out what they do and see how they can help you and how you can help them somehow. And I never thought like that. I was always me, me, me. But then once Jimmy was like that, like I started doing it. And I can see, I'm talking about in one day of going in there and going, hey, man, I'm Mark, well, who are you? Like, what do you do? And they're like, oh, that's what I do. I do all the running. I do the logistics. I book the building. Like the guy now is Sean Selman. But like I had to go and humble myself and get out of my own head and learn about what the business was and how it worked. And that was the best advice I ever got in wrestling.
I do have to ask you, kind of off the back of the hazing thing you were talking about, and you've talked about this publicly, that you were sent to Canada because you threatened to kill Shawn Michaels.
Well, that was one of those cases where it wasn't just Shawn. It was like I had it up to here. And Sid Vicious, God rest his soul, was the one that incited the riot. I broke my ankle, and like I said, wrestlers are acting sometimes and very childish, and they hid my crutches. So now I'm sitting there. I can't go to the bathroom. I can't go get something to drink. I can't leave the hazing. So everybody's just, oh man, that's messed up, man. They took your crutches, And then right about that time, the Kliq shows up. And it's Sean, it's Razor, it's Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash, and Sid, and X-Pac wasn't there yet. It was like, them guys. And I told Sean, I said, hey, man, I don't feel like playing. Like, enough is enough. Like, yeah, I've been doing this all day. I'm done. And he was like, but how are you going to get home? He just kept on pushing the button. And I said, you too little to be talking to me, man. I'll kill you. I said, there ain't enough people standing behind you right now to stop me from taking your life. And you over here playing with your life like that. And he's like, what? Who are you talking to? I said, I'm talking to you. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. I said, if y'all want to do something, now is the time. I had a cast on my leg. I said, go for it. I said, if you don't kill me, I'm going to kill every last one of you when I get back. And Sid is, I said, and him, like, get out of here, man. I said, he going to be the first one to run like a coward when he see what I do to one of y'all. It's the guys that talk the most. It's the guys that get all bent out of shape. They ain't comfortable with pain. I grew up with pain. I seen murder as a kid. I seen dead bodies. Think I'm afraid of you? Sean was like, hey, y'all need to do something with this dude. He is nuts. I wasn't nuts. I was real. And Vince was like, damn it, you can't threaten the top guys. I said, he wasn't acting like a top guy. I said, he challenged me. Ain't no man going to stand in front of my face and challenge me like that and not be suited for it. At least have a gun in your hand or something. I've had guns pulled on me before. I'm still here. So Vince was like, look, Bret has a camp up there in Calgary, and I can't fire you. I can't. So you're going to have to go away and learn how to be more tolerant in this business. And so Bret basically was the one that invited me to Canada. And of course, it would be a situation where Bret didn't like Shawn either, and he didn't want them to do nothing bad to me. You know, so Bret was like, come to Canada. So I moved to Canada. I lived up there for a year, trained with Stu Hart in the dungeon, and I thought I knew how to fight. I was just tough. Stu made me a weapon. That's what he did to both his boys. And if you think that Bret is tough, Owen would kick everybody in here ass. Owen was a monster. He just was kind and sweet. And he was like, Mark, you don't have to be a like, everybody's going to know. It only takes one time for everybody to see before. And so I got good mentoring and good teaching when I was in Canada. And they just made me really tolerant and understanding. I came back and took over.
How important was going to Canada and spending that time with the Harts?
If I wouldn't have went to Canada, I wouldn't have been in wrestling. I would have quit because I was tired of them. I was so done. I was so tired of them people. And I got to Canada, and everybody was nice. And they were like, hey, you can let your guard down. It's like nobody's going to mess with you up here. Otherwise, Bret is going to kick their ass. And I was like, Bret ain't going to. Man, people looked at Bret like a god, man. I'm as close to Michael Jordan in Canada as there was anybody. You know how live you got to be the number one guy in your whole country? And I was like, damn, man. You go to his house looked like this building. I'm like, how much money do you make? You know, I'm a kid asking dumbass questions, you know, and he was like, man, it's all relative, man. Like, you need to focus on wrestling.
And then they bring you back at the end of 1997, and within a couple of weeks, you're in the Nation of Domination.
I came back and because they started Ohio Valley Wrestling as the developmental place for WWF. And that's where I met Brock and Shelton. That's where I met Dan Severn and Don Fry and Ron Waterman and B.J. Payne and Batista and Robbie Dix. Like, all of the, John Cena came later on. All the people that were the elite of the elite in wrestling now were young guys that didn't know how to wrestle. And that's why they were in Louisville. CM Punks and Dolph Ziggler's, like, you know, you name somebody during that time. I remember Serena Deeb, first date. I remember Pat Buck, and, you know, like, there's a lot of people that they never was main event wrestlers, but they had great careers, and now they're in powerful positions in AEW or powerful positions at WWE. That's where I went. And I was there from 2000, 2001, something like that. And then that's when Brian Pillman died. And I got invited to go to the Pillman show and the memorial show. And I wrestled Hugh Morris. And me and Hugh stole it. I mean, you got elite wrestlers in the world that was on that card. and all people was talking about was me and Hugh Morris match. I mean, you got two guys close to 300. I was 300 pounds, leapfrogging and cross bodies and shit. I mean, we was doing it, man. And that's when the WWE said, "Hey, wow, y'all." They hired Hugh Morris that day off one match with me, and then we both went back to WWF at the time, and never stopped. I never stopped.